I couldn't understand more than the basics. It might have been talking about law, or it might have been giving me directions on my pip-buck applications. The core of the report seemed to be listing the crimes of the minister mayors that they committed over the last 10 years in the name of ending the war, and the prosecution of those crimes when the war was concluded. I looked at the second file. Articles of treason brought up against Goldenblood. The third was an investigation of the legal option of forcing Luna from the throne and restoring Celestia to power. There was a file asking the question of whether the power and authority of the princesses ought to be absolute, the potential legality of Pegasus' succession, accusations of cronyism and nepotism against Applejack, abuses of power against Twilight Sparkle. The charges against Pinkie Pie were practically a book. If the bombs hadn't fallen, if Equestria had won the war, what would have happened afterwards? Would Luna have remained in power? Would the Ministry Mayors? I thought of the things Twilight had done. Fluttershy, Rarity. Would I have wanted them punished for what they did to win the war? As much as I hated myself thinking it, yes. At least out on their rumps. But I'd want a whole slew of them punished as well. Yes, they were at war. Some of the things they had done were simply evil. 20 years of war. Over. But peace? That was a long ways off. Glory probably wanted me to stay in bed, but honestly, I didn't feel hurt enough for that. I slipped out and looked at myself in the mirror. I didn't touch my face, that would probably take the longest to heal. Instead, I used my horn to magically peel away the gauze on my neck, where I could get a good view. The hide beneath was, well, white. It had a strange diamond pattern dotted across it, and I could see the red mark where it bonded with the dingy hide. "How are you feeling?" Lacuna asked from the doorway. She looked at my shoulder and sighed. "Blackjack, Glory did not simply wrap you in gauze for the fun of it." "It itches," I said, reaching up to scratch it. A glow around my hoof halted me. Okay, I was the big bad security pony. I could handle a little itching. "Listen, Lacuna, about what I said. You didn't say anything that wasn't the truth," he replied calmly. "Twilight Sparkle has had 2 centuries to think about her mistakes, to dwell on them, in fact. Many of the memories in me came from her regret. The sad fact is, as good a pony as she was not perfect. As good as her intentions were, they were not always have the results she intended. She did things that were wrong because she believed that in the big picture, they would be vindicated." "The ends justifies the means?" I asked, looking at the folders. "There was a war to win," she said quietly, looking at her hooves. "Sorry." I sighed and closed my eyes. I'm no pony to judge, Lacuna. Even if I do, I shouldn't. I'd felt that urge to win at any cost, even if it was wrong. It was something I couldn't escape. If the goddess is listening to you, tell Twilight that I'm sorry. Discord was still a mistake, Lacuna said firmly, but then looked away. But you are right. He should not have been used like that, or left in that condition. We should have done better, and we wanted to give Luna her war-winning potion so badly. Is Glory with Scotch and P21? I asked, trying to scratch at the gauze. She smacked my hoof away with her own. She is. She feels it not best to leave him alone after what he did. I sighed. He's got problems. Big problems. But that's okay. We can keep an eye out and help him work through them. I looked at the big alicorn. He's not the only one. Glory tell you about the dreams she's been having about Rainbow Dash? Yes. He was quite distraught. Given her appearance, it was understandable. Lacuna replied, Don't worry about it. Hello? Have you seen our group? The only pony I don't worry about is... Boo? I don't worry about Boo. Then I blinked. Wait, yes, I do. Do you really think she doesn't have a soul? She's just a pony animal? I don't know. The evidence is against it, and Twilight never had the opportunity to explore the potential of blanks any further. If the Chimera files There were some blanks who were observed for more than a year and never manifested personalities or cutie marks. They could be trained to respond to stimuli, but were never more than that. The results confirmed what we wanted to believe. Blanks were a perfect source for needed organs. Otherwise, Scotch's life and your vanity were purchased at the cost of innocent lives. Okay. That was enough thinking about that. I turned off the monitor. Actually, I mashed buttons till it stopped beeping. What about Glory? Do you think... She isn't turning into Rainbow Dash, is she? Speaking of her, I really wanted to check in on Scotch. And Scratch. I really wanted to Scratch. And find out where Rampage had gone to. And figure out how to get the high tower from here. And how to treat an X addiction? I suspect not. Lacuna replied as we walked out of the hall. When I looked at her in confusion, she elaborated. Her behavior hasn't really changed, and while she may have been dreaming about the Rainbow Dash, her sonic ring boom was well established and is probably well known in Pegasus history. She begins having memories of private things, inconsequential things. That would be the time to worry. So then, am I being possessed by a mysterious unicorn in black who's been invading my dreams? I asked with a cheeky grin. Lacuna just looked at me sadly, and my grin slackened a little. Okay, not something to joke about anymore. We came around a corner and spotted Glory slumped against the wall wearing a blood-splattered doctor's coat. Inside, Scotch lay in a bed almost identical to the one I'd woken in. Boo was curled up at the foot. Peter One just sat there with that empty, forsaken look. I looked at the bandages wrapped around her eyes, the machine beeping softly. I knelt beside Glory, but she just gave a little snore and pulled up. I smiled and brushed her pretty prismatic mane. A bit short for my taste, but nice. Can you get her in a bed? Then maybe find out where Rampage got to? I whispered as I looked up at Lacuna. She nodded once and a glow lifted Glory into the air, cradling her in her magic. Lacuna walked across the hall to a separate hospital bed. I sighed as I smiled, thankful for the kind, quiet, meek Alicorn's assistance. Then walked in and over. Hey, I murmured softly as I tapped his shoulder. He didn't move. I should have told her, he said quietly. Yes, you should have. Tell her now. It doesn't matter now, he replied softly, stretching up to stroke her blue mane, just like her daddy's. I thought, when I saw her in the pod, if I just touch her, maybe I'd be able to say it. Instead, I killed her. Her heart's still beating, I said as delicately as I could, as if the volume of my voice might finish her off. It still matters. And in case you missed the chain of events, I'm the one who let her come. I'm the one who got her killed. Call me greedy, but I'll take the blame and damnation on this one. I hoped it would give him peace, but instead he gave a low choking sob. Tell her, before she goes into the afterlife. I don't know how to anymore. Do whatever you can, I said as I stroked his tangled blue mane. Then I patted his shoulder and stepped back. Come on, Boo. Let's give them some space. The pale mare sat up, blinked, and looked flatly at me, and lowered her head once again. Snack cake, I said as I reached out. Okay, never mind. Where did Glory put my gear? Back in the operating room? She's fine here, Peter One said hoarsely. Thank you. I smiled sadly and patted his shoulder one more time, then stepped out. As I started to close the door, I heard him take a deep breath. Maybe it was rude of me and wrong of me, but I didn't shut the door all the way and leave. I'm sorry. I know I don't have any right to talk to you like this. I know that you knew. I'm your father. Goddesses, I know I don't deserve to be. I don't deserve your mother's kindness. I was petty enough to resent it, actually. I never wanted to think of my time in 99 as having any consequence or meaning. that it was all horrible. That it was all better left behind and destroyed. He sighed quietly. But that's not true. There were good things. Things I never appreciated. Things worthwhile and good. There was good in 99. Your mother was good. And so were you. Blackjack. Probably a lot of mares. It was always easier to just pretend like you were all over mares. But it was a lie. And it hurts to keep lying to myself like it was otherwise. When you joined us and you were such a good girl. Braver than I was when I came outside. You followed us all over the place, even into places no filly was meant to go. And when BJ told you who I was, I couldn't face it. Not because you were a lousy daughter, but because I don't deserve to be your father. I'm a coward, Scotch Tape, and you deserve better than a worthless pony like me. I sniffed as I poked my head in and saw him standing beside the bed, stroking your mane. Then he began to sing in soft, low tones. Together, forever, with each other, that is the way I think it should be. One with another, a friend, like a daughter, that is the way I think it should be. I looked behind me as a sleepy and confused Glory approached, rubbing her tired eyes. I lifted a hoof to my lips and she looked past me as her eyes widened. And if along the way we find ourselves apart, know that it's not so. You're here in my heart. And if time passes, you'll find yourself alone, scared. Remember my feelings and memories of home. A place called home. Any home. His voice quavered and failed. I swallowed hard, then stepped in. I couldn't sing. Not really. But I could try. For him. Together. Forever. With each other. There is a way. Hope it will be. One with another. A friend, just like a brother. That is the way I think it should be. He looked at me, tears shimmering and threatening to spill as his eyes met mine. Somehow our words aligned as we felt the same things and put them together. Behind me I heard Lacuna approaching with Psycho Shy and an adolescent rampage. If that yellow featherbrain so much as snickered, I'd buck her into the next week. And if along the way we come across some troubles, I know I'll be able to face them with you beside me. And if, as time passes, you find life painful and hard, remember my friendship, and know that I'm here with you, right beside you, always with you. We looked down at her still form, and sang the phrase over and over again. Glory and Lacuna joined in, even Rampage, together, forever, with each other. As our voices grew, softer and softer, and then silence, save for the slowest beep of the monitor. Then I saw a tear creep down Scotch's cheek. Each one stared as tears of his own flowed freely. Slowly he reached out with a hoof and wiped it away. The little filly sniffed, and whispered softly, "Daddy." With a sob he leaned over her, and held her carefully in his hooves as he began to shake. The green filly pressed her face to his neck, crying beneath the bandages as she hugged him back. I sniffed, feeling tears spilling down my cheeks and feeling like a pony, a whole, intact pony, for the first time in a very long while. And since there wasn't any more room to hug Scotch, I hugged Glory, and the very perplexed-looking Boo instead. I looked at Psycho Shy, expecting disdain and disgust. Instead, there were tears in her eyes, too. I was shocked to see Rampage embrace her fellow Reaper. Together. Forever. With each other. Footnote. Maximum level reached.